Gen Zs are proud. This generation is totally different from millennials. Imagine presenting a cell phone to a young person 30 years ago, 40 years ago. They wouldn't buy it from you. They needed the cell phone back then, but because they don't understand what this is, they might say it's a toy. They might even break it. You had the best product, a cell phone that was needed in that time. They like to consume products on their terms. The way you sold 30 years ago is not the way you will sell in this present day and age. This generation is wired differently. What worked for you 10 years ago, when put in the same situation in this era, would not work. Why? It's now a different species of people you're selling to. If you don't understand how you can sell to them, get them to accept what you're presenting to them, you will be left behind. I want you to understand that this is the way you will survive in the next 5 years. Now, how do you sell to Gen Zs? Most people have been asking me, what is the best way to sell in the next 5 years? Is there like a secret strategy that you should follow persistently? And who are the best people to sell to? What products should we sell? All these things. And at the end of the day, it all boils down to a simple answer. Understand the generation and the era to which you are existing in and how to survive and thrive in that era. Fortunately for us, the era we're living in right now is the era of the Gen Zs. And we're slowly transitioning into the Gen Alpha and Gen Beta. But then, in the next 5 years, the population of the marketplace would consist generally, mostly with Gen Zs. Now, how do you sell to Gen Zs? This is a question I've been getting from a lot of people. One thing you need to bear in mind is you need to understand this generation is totally different from millennials. What worked for you 10 years ago, 20 years ago, even 7 years ago, when put in the same situation in this era, would not work. Why? Because it's now a different species of people you're selling to. This generation is wired so differently from the millennials that if you don't understand how you can sell to them, how you can pitch your ideas, your offers, and get them to accept what you're presenting to them, you will be left behind without anyone to pick you up. Now, if you're a young person in your teens or in your 20s, this video is for you. If you're already in your 30s, 40s, it's also for you, but majorly for the young people, because I want you to understand that this is the way you will survive in the next 5 years. So before you go out bringing a product, creating a service, I want you to understand the people you are selling to so that you don't sell the wrong thing to the right people, or you don't sell the right thing to the wrong people at the wrong time. So these things, they are what you need to consider while playing in the marketplace. If you have the brightest product, if you have the brightest idea, the best product, you're presenting it to the right people, but at the wrong time, it's useless. Imagine presenting a cell phone to a young person 30 years ago, 40 years ago. They wouldn't buy it from you. Like, they needed the cell phone back then, but because they don't understand what this is, they might say it's a toy. They might even break it. You had the best product, a cell phone that was needed in that time. You were selling to the right person because, of course, you're a human being that would use it. But you were selling to the right person at the wrong time. When you're creating a product, when you're trying to pitch an idea, you need to understand how good is this product? Who am I selling it to? And is this the best time to bring it into the marketplace? So back to the Gen Zs. How do you sell to Gen Zs? I'm going to tell you 5 key things you must bear in mind if you really want to sell to Gen Zs and make a lot of profit. All right. First thing is, you need to understand that you're not just selling products. Whenever people talk about selling, how can I make money? The first thing that comes to their mind is how they can sell a product. Now, do you know you can actually sell an idea? Do you know you can actually sell a trend? TikTok trends that blow up. It's not a product. It's not a physical product. It's a trend. It's a culture. You could sell an idea. You could sell a culture. 10 years ago, what you needed to sell to make money was majorly products. Now, people were selling ideas, but then it was not popular. Okay? People were being sold ideas and they bought it without knowing that a transaction happened. You know, when you hear there was a revolution in a country, that a particular set of people overthrew this government, and an idea was sold to those people for them to gather and overthrow that government. But at that moment in time, they did not believe that a transaction happened. All right. But now, we're in this present day and age, ideas are being sold. Some people are aware that they are buying these ideas and they choose to go ahead with it. So you thinking that the only thing you can sell is a product, the only thing you can sell is a service, and then you're killing yourself trying to know how the best product to create, the best service to create. You're in the generation of Gen Zs. These people buy products, they buy services, they buy anything, ideas, culture, anything at all. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to bear in mind, so that you're now presented with options on the table. You're not just stuck with products or services. You can sell an idea, you can sell a culture. Now, the second thing you need to understand about Gen Zs is they prefer ease to anything else. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, human beings, the millennials, they all preferred ease, but not in the way Gen Zs prefer ease right now. Back then, people suffered. So imagine if you're experiencing pain at level 100. Now, level 80, if someone is offering you a pain relief that drops your pain level to 80 or 85 or even 90, you buy it. You see it as ease. You see it as a relief. Okay? So imagine a generation who were born in an era where the level of pain is probably at 30 or 20. You see how low that is? That's the generation you're dealing with. Gen Zs, they prefer the level of ease not just because, but this is where they were born into. Gen Zs were born into an era of technology where things are made easy by default. Now you're taxed with the challenge of making it easier for them. So you see, it's already easy for them, but then they still prefer a level of ease, a better level of ease. So when you come and you're trying to sell a product or an idea, and it's not correlating with their level of ease at all, they still see some stress. You know, someone comes to your DM, someone comes to your landing page, and they need to click on like 4 more buttons before they need to land on 4 more pages before they get what they want. Trust me, you're not making any sales at all. That's why the idea of quick cash out, quick payment, it's blowing up. Gen Zs prefer ease to anything else. And when I tell you that, I mean it with fact. Someone could have foodstuff in the house, and the only thing it takes him or her to do is to just move into the kitchen and go cook those foodstuff. But then they will prefer to order food. Why? The amount of time and energy it saves them from moving into the kitchen, lighting the gas, putting the ingredients, waiting for it to boil, all those things. They just prefer to order food. There's a lot of food at home, but they prefer to order food. That's to just paint a slight picture of the level of ease that Gen Zs prefer. Now, if your product is not, or your service is not offering some level of ease to Gen Zs, sooner or later they'll drop off. They might get accustomed to probably your product and everything. Look at Nigeria. Before, if you wanted to make a transaction with someone, you would have to use your card, all right? But coming to understand that Gen Zs, they don't like that stress. They want, I can send you the money and you receive it immediately. That's why you see companies like OPay, MoneyPoint, these people are now banking billions and millions. Why? Because they're appealing to the generation that they found themselves in. If you wanted to buy airtime, if you wanted to recharge, you would have to walk to the next store close to you, buy the physical card, impute the digits. OPay, MoneyPoint, they came up with all these apps. Even bank apps had to adopt that method. Now, I want you to remember that when banks came out, when banks were banks, they were not concerned with recharging your airtime, recharging your data, betting, recharging your lights, electricity bills. They were just banks for banks. Transaction, withdraw money, send to the person you want. That's all. However, the reason they are still relevant till this day is because they understood the generation that they were dealing with per time. Now, millennials only wanted to send money to their loved ones and withdraw money whenever they needed it. But then Gen Zs not only want to send money to their loved ones, they want to do everything in one place. They want to recharge their electricity bill. They want to recharge their data, their airtime. They want to place bets. They want to do a lot of things. Now, you see commercial banks like UBA, Zenith, First Bank, all incorporating this in their app. And that's the only reason why they are still relevant. Because people that use their apps when they came out are already old. They are elderly now. Do you understand? They are losing market share. So they decided to gain with people that are dominating the marketplace now, the Gen Zs. You need to understand that you should at some level be preferring ease to Gen Zs. If you make food, try to find a way of delivering food to them with ease. Now that comes in different ways, reducing costs, making fast, speed, everything. Now you understand that ease comes with speed. You can't even separate those two. Gen Zs love speed, okay? That's what will make them stick with you long enough. The third thing I want you to understand about Gen Zs are proud. Gen Zs are proud. They want to consume products on their own terms, and they consume these products in expression of their individual identities. So you can't tell a Gen Z the way they should use your product. They want to use your product the way it suits them. Now, when you understand this, you don't impose your product or your service or whatever it is you're offering on them. If you do that, they'll resist it. And trust me, when they resist it, they have resisted it. You know, one thing, Gen Zs are kind of like impulse because they have a lot of options. And I'll talk about that in probably another video because that's symposium discussion. But you need to understand that Gen Zs were born into a life of options. You can see a Gen Z that works at an office, and just because he had an issue with the boss or a fellow employee, they send in a resignation letter and they leave. You'll be so surprised to know that 8 times out of 10, as they are sending in that resignation letter, they have no plan whatsoever of what to do next or how to survive. But back then, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you see people, before they have to endure. Before they send in a resignation letter, you know that they probably have another option somewhere. But because these people were born in a place of options, they just by default understand that you're not the only person. Just by default, okay? So you can't come and design your product probably pink or red, and you say, oh, that's because these are the only colors we have, and you send it to the marketplace. They are telling you, oh, I would like my own to be yellow, and that person is telling you, I would like my own to be blue, and you're trying to explain that these are the only colors available. That is not going to work in any way at all. So you need to understand that Gen Zs consume products on their own terms. That's why fashion would not die. Fashion is always going to evolve because it appeals to their terms. You see someone that is moody, someone just, like I said, their individual identities. People, Gen Zs are very fond of giving themselves identities or gaining or developing their own identities. They just want to belong to something, and I'll touch that later. You see someone say, like, you hear terms like introverts, extroverts, that these are the clothes for introverts, these are the things for introverts. You need to understand that because a Gen Z can literally refuse a product that appeals to her or appeals to him because it's not aligning with their individual identity. So you see someone that is moody, always wanting to buy only black clothes, gray clothes, green clothes, all these dull color clothes. She's consuming your clothes based on her terms. Now, she's not just buying your clothes because she likes your clothes. She's buying your clothes because she wants the gray clothes. She wants the black clothes. If you don't make gray clothes or black clothes, she's not patronizing you. She's not buying anything from you. And why is she buying on that term? Because it appeals to her individual interest, her individual identity of a sad person. You see the gay movement, the lesbianism movement, they all have their own way of identifying with each other. You see someone that's a guy that tries to act like a girl, he has his way of dressing. This is a boy's clothes, you must buy a boy's clothes. They don't give two hoots. They just understand that there's another person next door. There's another company next door. There's another clothing brand I can go to. All right. So if you understand that they buy based on their individual identities, on their own terms, what you need to do right now is understand their identities, these identities. Now, in as much as they differ, when you carry out enough research, you understand that you can bucket these identities. Okay, the best way of knowing these identities, of understanding Gen Z identities, is by following them on social media. Follow them, observe them. One common trend on in Nigeria, I think at one time, was, no be you go tell me what I go do. You just understand that they are rebellious. So saying that is showing that they are rebellious already. You know, all these popular terms, all these popular trends, look at these trends. Trends are trends because people promote it continuously. So if a large number of people say one thing, that's the reason it's going to be popular. And trust me, social media is filled with young people. So if you want to the quick hack is by observing their behaviors on social media. That's the best way. That's one of the best ways you could understand their identities. Curate your products, your services, your ideas, the culture you want to introduce. Curate it to align with these behaviors, these identities you're seeing. I believe I've helped you. The fourth thing you need to understand about Gen Zs is Gen Zs prefer access to ownership. And I told you in the beginning that what worked 10 years ago, 15 years ago, will never work in this present day and age. And the things that work, that don't work now, that worked before, that don't work now, will shock you. In the past, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, someone would be proud that they owned a car. Someone would be proud, like it's an achievement that you own a house, that you own a car. Fast forward to Generation Z. They prefer to rent an Airbnb than owning a house. They see it as work, as load. They prefer not to buy a car, but travel to cities and just rent cars. Access. That's why Netflix is big. You can see someone not go on Netflix for a month or 2 months. They prefer not to buy the whole movie. If you could buy the whole movies on Netflix, trust me, Netflix will go out of market. The reason Netflix thrives is because they give you access, and that's why they are a multi-billion-dollar company. They give you access. They are based on this model. They give you access. They give these Gen Zs access for a limited period of time. All right. So they believe, Gen Zs believe that it's kind of ties back to consuming on their own terms. Now, a Gen Z will not want to watch movies throughout the day. So probably they'll say, okay, this month I'll just watch series, or it's their own terms. A Gen Z will prefer to rent a tuxedo for a night than to buy the tuxedo. When you understand that they will prefer to rent something, use it for a period of time, when they are tired of using it, they give it out. Now they don't want to be tied down with that thing. So it goes back to based on their own terms. Okay. So you can't say, oh, this tuxedo is only for sale. You can't rent it out. You're not going to survive in this industry. If you want to thrive in the next 5 years, you need to understand that Gen Zs prefer access to ownership. That's the principle. You can now dissect it and spread it across. Look at big business models, MTN, Glo. They just give you access to their unlimited data supply, give you access for a month. They give you different options. You can take the daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever. All of them, access. So if you want to build a business model that you really want to appeal to the Gen Zs, build it based on access than ownership. The last thing you need to understand about Gen Zs, and this is very key, trust me, this is very, very key, and I've seen it occur a lot of times. Gen Zs prefer to consume based on ethical concern. Gen Zs like to belong to something. Gen Zs like to belong to a cause, a purpose. Why? When you see businesses that tell you, oh, they are big businesses, I think there's this big business, glass business, Warby or something. He says when you buy a pair of glasses, one is being sent to Africa for people that need it the most. Young people are going to rush that product. Why? Because they believe they are part of a cause, eliminating blindness or eliminating something in one part of the world. Now, you have to keep to that because probably, I don't want to make this video long. There are more reasons, there are more things. If you guys want me to make a second part of this video, just tell me in the comment section. Just type part 2 or request for it. I'll make, because it's a lot. I can't compact them into one video. All right. You need to understand that transparency. So if you're making these promises, when you want Gen Zs to accept your idea, remember I said you can sell ideas, you can sell beliefs, you can sell products. When you want them to accept it, you have to give them a reason. They have to have a reason. Okay. That's why you see protests, rallies, riots. Young people are always there, and the reason they are there is because they believe that with this action they are carrying out, there's a greater why. So you see, probably one protest comes out of nowhere, and why are they carrying out protest? To reduce fuel subsidy, to free the girl child, random things. But the reason they are so engrossed in it is because it's a reason, it's a why. So you have to give them a reason to buy your product. You have to give them a reason to engage with you. Okay, this is a very big thing that most people don't understand. Your reason could be a why. It could be your story. It could be the reason your brand came up. Young people, Gen Zs associate with these kind of stories more than anybody ever did. Okay, so you're coming up with a product, either you're saying buy this, buy 2 and 1 will be sent to this person, or buy 3 and this will be done. Just create a story, create a cause, create a movement around what you're rallying about. And a very big tip I learned from one of my mentors is, one of the big ways of actually getting attention from big dogs, the top 1%, is by doing all these non-profit These are the way you get the attention of these people. And I'm not going to elaborate more on this because this is like the insider information that most people don't get. You won't see it on social media. If you study Tony Elumelu from UBA, he had his big banks, everything. The only time Bill Gates paid attention to him is when he now created this Tony Elumelu Foundation. Something that has a cause, a story. Now his foundation, of course, is eliminate poverty, give young people the power, the opportunities they deserve. So that's like a tip for you. If you're a business owner, you're creating a brand, you could also do that. So I believe I've helped you. These are just a part of what you need to understand about how to sell to Gen Zs. All right. If you want a part 2, tell me in the comment section. Most of you have been asking me, what's the best business to start? What's the best thing to do? How do I sell with content, AI? If you really want to understand this, I recorded a 60-minute video where I taught business owners how they can scale, how they can start making their first million, how they can scale from their first million using content and AI. I recorded that video. It's one of my best performing videos right now. As soon as you're done with this video, it's in the description. Go and watch it. Carry out whatever action you're required to carry out after watching the video. And as usual, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Our mantra, share this video with just 3 of your friends. No more, no less. And as always, where you are right now is not your final destination. I shall see you at the top. For now, lock in and represent.